Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to our weekly discussion with Heather Wells from the Hidden Churn, also from Brain Balance Centers. And Heather is in the Texas area. Heather, how you doing? How are things in Texas right now? Because it's dark here in Florida where I am, clearly. It's like raining.
It felt like sunrise was at 11 a.m. because it was so dark and rainy here too. And then the fog came out, but it stopped raining. It's clearing up. Yeah.
I love it. Well, here we are. Guys, if you're just tuning in and you're just watching us for the first time, what we do here is we get an opportunity to hear some tips, some tricks from Heather, who is a board certified cognitive specialist. She is also a National Autism Summit speaker. So she knows what she's talking about when it comes to kids struggling with sensory issues. And, one of those kids is my little guy. He is 9 years old right now, and he went through the Brain Balance program. Awesome experience. I loved it. It was 9 months of support, help, and resources for me as a parent. And I like to think that it's made me a better dad, to my kid that struggles. But, we're all in this together. And I think especially right now, we could use all the help we can get. So Heather, we've got, it seems like a little story that we're going to be sharing today. I'm looking over here. When I look over here, I've got my other screen so I can still see you. And then I'm going to read us a little story. Can you tell us what we're talking about today?
We are talking about why does my child lie? And I'm telling you, this is the show that I needed when I had 2 boys at home. And I'm like, I'm teaching them right from wrong. This is a moral household. What's going on? I felt like a horrible mother. And I'll tell you, I handled it poorly. I never lost my cool, but there is brand new neuroscientific research that now we know why that's happening. And I wish I had known years ago.
Well, I will bring our story in. Tell me what this is.
This is a story of a 6th grader named Josh, and I want to see if this relates to anyone, and we'll tie it all together as we go along.
Okay, so Heather has asked me to be a little narrator here, so I'm going to read this story to you guys. Here we go. Meet Josh, a 6th grader who struggles with executive function. This is a day in his life. 7 a.m. Josh knows that he's forgotten something. That's it. His cleats for today's game. He sprints back inside the house to get them and leaves his backpack in the kitchen. He walks right past the checklist his mom made him to help him remember what he needed for school, but it's too late. The bus is here and about to pull away. He's going to miss it again.
And that shows an issue with organization. Any parents out there watching, teachers, what kinds of lies might a child tell in this scenario? I can think of several. Does anything pop in your head?
Oh, yeah. For me, he would blame it on someone else, like his brother, getting in his way, or his stupid brother was crying and he's a little irritating, all that kind of stuff.
Yes, that's one. Like, you got to blame it on somebody else. Or, Mom, you didn't tell me you were leaving me a checklist. And you're like, there were times where I'm like, am I dreaming this in my own head? Because I'm pretty sure I said it like 10 times. Is the child lying in that case, or was he not paying attention? Could he not remember what you said? But blame on somebody else, and then you're going to have the sibling clash.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Next slide. Here we go. We are talking about 11 a.m. Josh's English teacher stands at the blackboard and asks, "Tell me how last night's reading relates to the words on the board." Every hand in the class goes up except for Josh's. His heart sinks thinking about all the steps answering this question will take.
Yes, working memory. And look what he's thinking as this is happening. I don't know. I wasn't thinking about those words when I read last night. I'm so overwhelmed. Anxiety is setting in. Working memory means I can pull information from my background knowledge, from my long-term memory, and say, hey, this applies to what I'm doing right now. I can pull the past together to the present, use it, then I can file it back. I can take that information and predict the outcomes in the future. We use this for math. We use it all the time. And we use it to remember our mental grocery list. We use it for self-talk. And what might happen later on is, who knows, maybe the teacher did mention those words and he was distracted. Maybe he can't remember what the teacher said. Mom, she didn't tell me. Or how did school go? It was good, even if he got a really poor grade on this pop test they're about to have. You already know because you're living this if you're watching this.
Yeah. All right. At 1 p.m., it's the best part of school. Lunch. At the table with his friends, Josh shouts at a mile a minute and jumps in and out of his seat. He doesn't even notice that the lunch monitor is glaring at him and that his friends look annoyed.
He's not doing a good job of monitoring himself, impulse control, all that self-regulation stuff. And look how he's just talking. Last night I was playing my video games and it was amazing. There were like 85 crazy monsters and I got all of them. Pow, 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 pow.
Pew, 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 pew. Yeah.
See, your sound effects, that's why you're reading the story, Corey. Now,
well, that's from Lego Movie. Have you seen Lego Movie where they say pew, pew?
You know that I've seen fewer movies than anybody on the planet, most likely. And
well,
and I may not be exaggerating. He's probably exaggerating, right? And those friends are annoyed. One, he doesn't stop talking and giving them a chance to talk. Two, he's lying. He didn't get all of the monsters.
Yep.
Is he lying, or might he have poor self-esteem because he's getting in trouble all the time? He makes poor grades. He thinks he's a human doing, not a human being. And so I want to have friends. I want to be popular. So I'm going to say I did something that sounds really cool. Yep. So that can be an emotional regulation issue. That can be, I don't have a brake pedal to stop and think, that's going to annoy them. They're going to know I'm not telling the truth. Yep. So another example here.
Love it. Next page. 3 p.m. Time for soccer. A teammate kicks the ball towards Josh, and he knows that in soccer, you do one thing. You kick the ball as hard as you can. But where? He can't exactly remember, so he just kicks. Wham! Uh-oh. He sent the ball right into his own team's net. Anger brews on his teammates' faces as Josh's heart sinks yet again.
Working memory, because part of that is I can put this information that I know in context. There is a context for where you kick the ball, and flexibility. It's not just this is all you do. I need to see the shades and degrees of things. Wait, there's 2 goals on the field. Yep. But guess what? How'd the game go? Great, I scored a goal. Doesn't tell him it's for the other team. Another lie.
No. All right, what do we got next? At 6 p.m., it's time for dinner. But first, Josh has to set the table. Josh scratches his head and tries to remember exactly what goes at each plate setting. He thinks he's got it right this time, but his little sister reminds him that he doesn't. How dare she? He blows up, screaming at her.
And then he tells his parents, she called me an idiot.
Yep, that's exactly right.
And did she say, no, I didn't. And you're like, don't make things up, Josh. Your sister did not say that. I heard. I was just in the next room. He might have. Did he actually hear that? He might be so emotionally charged. He might have rejection sensitivity. I'm going to remind y'all more about that in a minute. He may not be lying. That may be his perception. He's so overwhelmed with a feeling of rejection. He might be embarrassed. He doesn't have a feeling of self-efficacy, autonomy, independence, But look, emotional control, again, another self-regulation issue, being able to organize what all goes on the table. He is just cheating all the time.
Beautiful. 8 p.m. After hours of cajoling from his mom, Josh finally sits down to do his homework, but where to begin? He knows he has several projects and papers that need attention, but what's due when? When needs done for tomorrow? What needs done for tomorrow? Overwhelmed, he puts his head down on the desk.
And what are a lot of kids, y'all can fill in the blanks on this. What are a lot of kids going to say in this event? I don't know. What's due when? Do you have any homework tonight? No. And sometimes kids don't know what they're supposed to be doing. Sometimes he's struggling. He doesn't know how to start. So if I just say that I don't have any, that's a lie. I didn't pause and think about it. Inhibition. But really, I'm embarrassed about how much I'm struggling. So if I just say no, I don't have to face the fact of telling you I don't have any clue how to do this.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And I think we can probably skip past the next one because he still struggles on how to put the paper together. More lies, what was your grade? Oh, we haven't gotten it back yet. Y'all know how this plays out.
Yep, absolutely. And then at 3 a.m., finally Josh's paper is done and he can catch a few hours of Z's, but he can't seem to drift off to sleep because he's worried that he didn't do the paper right. And then there's the problem he'll discover tomorrow morning. His disorganization has gotten the best of him and he forgot to put the finished paper on his backpack.
Teacher, the dog ate my homework.
Yep.
Y'all can play out many different stories that will go along with why he didn't turn it in. And did you turn your paper in? Yes, to his parents.
Yep, not good. Not good. All right. So now we can talk about some other things that we've got. We've got a couple slides to finish.
Yes. So this poor Josh is churning because he's lacking the critical thinking skills. And you all have heard me talk so many times about the fight or flight response. And our bodies and our brains cannot tell the difference between real and perceived threats. The sensory motor system, I overperceive visual or auditory information, and I feel like I'm in danger, and I start churning. But look, fight, flight, I can't even speak. Fight, flight, freeze, or fib. New neuroscience is calling it the quadruple F. It's the fight, flight, freeze, or fib response. Fibs are often self-preservation, protection, deflection, or extension strategy. Extension is, I'm going to buy myself some time because I either don't know the answer or my answer is not going to be acceptable to my parent or my teacher. And I may fear anger, or I may perceive anger that's not there. That happens a lot with the fight or flight. That's why we always talk about being calm. Even if you're being monotone, if you're not smiling, anything can be anger. I want to have self-preservation of my self-esteem. I want to protect myself from the wrath of someone that probably isn't even coming, so, but it's rooted in the executive functions we just looked at, all of those things we just looked at, or to cover up the struggles. So understanding that guard dog, we've talked about this, the amygdala hijacks the brain. And then I have less control over the words that come out of my mouth. That's the hippocampus. That is memory and language. And then the information does not make it to the part of my brain, prefrontal cortex, where I have all of these executive function skills. So even kids who have some of the skills can't access those skills if they are living in a churn.
Yeah.
That is information that I wish I had known as a mother about the fib response being part of that, because I can't tell you how many times I'd be like, okay, we can have family movie night, go clean your room. They'd be gone. And it was a tornado. And I'd say, they'd come down in 2 minutes. It's all clean. I'm like, I'm going to go check your room. I'm giving them a chance to rethink their answer, which is a good strategy, but I was messing up other things. If I go up and look at it, I'm going to think that's a clean room. Good job. Impulsivity. I go up there and you could have paid, I'll pay you $500 if you can tell me one thing they did in their room. I wouldn't have gotten the $500.
Yeah. Ouch.
But they weren't trying to lie. It's very important to understand that kids with ADHD, kids with, you can have executive dysfunction, these issues with planning, prioritizing, organization, memory, attention, etc. They are not trying to be defiant. They are not trying to disrespect you if they have these issues. And it's not a character flaw. It is not anything you're doing wrong as a parent. And then with the, we've talked about rejection sensitivity dysphoria before, but it is so important to revisit it in this conversation. Dysphoria, the Greek word of that means hard to bear. If someone does reject a child with rejection sensitivity, 98 to 99% of adolescents and adults with ADHD have rejection sensitivity dysphoria. 30% say it is the most debilitating part out of all the challenges they face, and they face a lot, right? It means if I perceive rejection, just like my sister called me an idiot. No, she didn't. Or I'm actually rejected, it can be debilitating. It leads to suicidal ideation a lot of times, rage, it gets misdiagnosed as mood disorder, social phobia. I'm going to be a people pleaser because I'm so scared that you're going to reject me. I'm going to say whatever I think you want to hear. There's a lie. I'm going to opt out. And then I'm going to make up lies to cover the fact that I'm not even trying in class. Perfectionism also gets me really in the weeds and I can't get out. But you can imagine if I have a fractured self-esteem and I know that the truth is something that you don't want to hear, I am going to try to I'm trying to avoid shame, because rejection sensitivity is all about, it's not just embarrassment, it is shame. Like, I'm not worthy as a human being.
Yeah.
So this ties in. I just had to revisit this. You can see in this cartoon, this guy has gotten all these positive comments throughout the day. One person says you can really be a jerk sometimes, and that's the one comment that keeps him up at night, and all the others fade away.
Yeah. it's like you're reading into my life. It's like you can see my life. I'm telling you, as a brain balanced parent, like, this is my dude, you know?
Yes.
And
No.
he lights up when I give him a 5 or when I tell him how awesome he did, about something. It's just really cool. But I mean, that exact term, you can be a jerk sometimes, is something that my daughter will say to him sometimes. And she's 12, right? And she gets really hurt when he decides to throw something at her head or, steal a piece of her clothing or something along those lines, right? And so it's hard. We're still teaching her not to say certain things like that, but she's going through some emotions as well. So it's tough.
Sure. Yeah, no, that is super hard. And it's really good to, she has a right to be, for anybody who has siblings out there who are kind of on the receiving end of a sibling's struggles, you can talk to them about of course, come seek parent support. That's a really good time for parent support. But also, instead of saying you can be a jerk sometimes, talk about what you did hurt my feelings because, and then it's the thing they did, not who they are. There's nothing about labeling the person as a jerk or whatever other word is being used in a particular household. It completely changes the narrative. It's always important to talk about all of the positives in them while still, we can't just focus on the gifts. We can't just focus on the struggles. We have to really get kids in touch with who they are, their totality of who they are, but stay away from labels like jerk or whatever words are being used. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really internalize those. On the flip side, now, magical thinking or over optimism, I looked at that so many times. I'm like, I spelled that wrong because it's just a weird word. But magical thinking is part of typical development. And there's some egocentrism where kids think I cause everything, and sometimes that's cool. It's like really good imagination. And sometimes it's damaging because I had a bad thought and something bad happened. That is my fault. And they can really internalize it.
Right.
That in typical development, magical thinking goes away around age 10. We are always talking about developmental age, not chronological age. And in general, kids with ADHD or executive dysfunction tend to be a good 3 years behind developmentally. So, and sometimes this doesn't go away 13, it can even last into adulthood. So, but understand that one of the reasons it sometimes doesn't go away is dealing with the world realistically, not through wishful thinking, requires executive function skills, connecting past experience, present action, future outcomes, sizing up a situation, putting everything in context. What are the risks? What could be the consequences? What will be the positive outcomes if I do X, Y, Z? And then being able to problem solve, prioritize, and plan out what to do. If I can't do those things, what am I going to do? I'm just going to wish it away. My magical thinking tells me did you spill or did you take the scissors to my new chair? No. I don't have the inhibition to pause and think about what I'm saying. And I might be overcome with fear, emotional regulation, right? And that word just pops out of my, no, because I'm so scared of the ramifications. I'm trying to protect myself. If I just say no, maybe magically it didn't happen. That actually is kind of the process on a subconscious level a lot of times. Or, do you have any homework tonight? No. I wish I didn't. So if I say I don't, somehow magically I don't. It becomes true. So it's very important to avoid unhelpful praise. So an example could be if you have a child who is like, I'm going to go to Harvard, and they're really struggling in school, and that may not be realistic for them, but they're really good in art. And here's an art school that would be right up their alley. It's yes, you go for it. We want to talk about their strengths and build them up always, but we don't want to instill false hope, right? We have to be honest, but still supportive and help guide them in directions that are in line with who they are and what is going to be up their alley. So you counter the truth with realism, but still with support and love. And it's always good to sit down and kind of reflect on things they've done, decisions they've made, that were based on wishful thinking and what was the outcome, so that they can kind of log that away and learn from it for the future. Your teenager may say, I can speed at night. Police aren't going to get me at night. And you're like, the police are working 24 hours a day and they do pull over speeders. Is that a word?
Yeah, sure.
You are, and then if they still do it, they face the consequence. But you've at least tried to bring realism to it. And notice that magical thinking if you see it, and then work through that. Yeah.
Love it.
So some ways to reduce lying. We just looked at rejection sensitivity, and even if they don't have that per se, there is almost always some amount of shame as the years progress. If I struggle more than my friends, I stand out. I don't have as many friends. I'm not, they might have these internal messages thinking they're not smart, not this, they're not that. We have to remove the shame of lying if it is due to a neurodevelopmental issue. That does not mean we're excusing it. It doesn't mean, oh, you shoplifted, cool, you're not going to face a consequence. You have ADHD. No, there's still a consequence, but we are going to approach it differently. And we've got to remember where it's coming from. We must be calm. If we're not calm, what's going to happen? I kick into fight or flight because now I feel in danger again. The wrath of my parent, the wrath of my teacher. This is the one thing I did right. I always stay calm. But we want to, and I was very understanding, but it has to be a place of curiosity, not judgment. It's how we ask the questions. We want to ask open-ended questions. We have got to play detective and not judge. We have to remember to not take the lie personally. I did not do well with this one. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because it was just such blatant lies. And I thought it was a character thing of what in the world am I doing wrong? No, we've talked about where it's coming from, but that mantra, it might be good to put it on your bathroom mirror. I needed that at least. Avoid creating situations where lying is an option. So as an example, instead of, if lying is an issue, we want to grow autonomy and independence. But if you know that this is a challenge for your child, instead of saying, did you finish your homework? What are they going to say? Yes. If you know that's a pattern with them, instead go check and see if the homework's done. Yeah. Because it gets into a cycle of I ask, they lie, and it just gets ingrained and really wired in. And that just becomes more and more of a knee-jerk response. And then they feel worse about themselves because they know they're lying. Yeah. But kids don't always know they're lying. Sometimes they're lying to themselves. But when they know they're lying, they're going to feel worse and worse. It's going to beat themselves up even more. Focus on what led to the lie, not the lie itself. That goes back to being a detective. What are the patterns? Okay. And let's see. One of the lies I say is, you didn't tell me that. Maybe that's memory. Maybe it's attention. Maybe it's, do you have any homework tonight? No. And they keep saying no. Or it's about the grade they got or whatever the deal is. When is this due? Are they doing that because the homework is too hard? Are they doing it because they're in with a group of friends who don't care about academics? Like, look for the patterns, and then you can strategize and set up an environment to overcome that. There are almost always patterns to the lies. Give kids an opportunity to reconsider their answers. And that means without a consequence. So if you know they're lying and you ask something, knee-jerk response, they impulsively answered with a lie because maybe their fear response was really high, and say, okay, I want you to count to 3, which is practice the pause or give them settling time. And I want you to rethink your answer. Do you have a different answer you want to give me? And you won't get in trouble if you do. And give them a chance to come clean, help them save face, and they start creating a new pattern of telling the truth. As you find these patterns, there are all these different ways you can structure the environment, like not giving them the opportunity to lie, etc. But also, man, they have issues with inhibition. That can lead to risky behavior. I mean, they're really struggling with attention. They're always exhausted. They can't organize. They don't know how to write papers. We must address the root causes. As you find those patterns, get the help to get to the absolute foundation of the issue. And teach accountability. Now, when you're first in this, you want to try to remove the opportunity to lie when you find those patterns. But as it's getting better, do start asking them the questions so that they have an opportunity to be accountable and tell the truth. Talk about how important trust is, why it matters. Now, what can you do to make this better? They need to learn how to restore trust if they've broken it.
Right.
And reward honesty. Almost always in this case, when kids are struggling with lying, they are not doing it because of a character flaw. They are doing it because of struggles. And rewarding honesty when they're not even expecting it is a more powerful motivator than punishing the lie. Now, it doesn't mean there's never a consequence for lying, as I said.
Right. Consequences are big. Yeah.
But you must reward honesty even more, because that got me positive attention. I want to do that more. That felt good. That starts building up self-esteem and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. I'm going to the next one. Ooh. Is this a worksheet?
Yes, it's a self-awareness worksheet, because metacognition, thinking about your thinking, self-awareness is a foundational tool for emotional social growth. And we want them to be cognizant of when they're lying, because some of them, it's such a habit, they don't even think about the words coming out of their mouths. So growing self-awareness almost always decreases lying, especially when it's implemented along with these other tips. But again, we're still going to focus on strengths so that they don't just identify themselves as I'm a liar. You're not a liar. You're a wonderful human being who is struggling with the act of lying. But here's why. What two things seem harder for you this year than last year? This requires such self-awareness. You can adjust these for age. This is kind of about middle school kind of self-awareness type things. What are two of your favorite things to do? A lot of these kids don't know. They are so, again, human doings, not human beings. And I'm a failure and I get in trouble all the time. I'm the problem child. I'm dumb. No, you're not. What are two of your least favorite things to do? Give them, list 3 of your recent successes. Know how they define success. Success doesn't mean 100. It means I grew. I figured something out. I had an aha moment, or this is something I'm proud of. And why was I successful? Why is always an important question. What could I have done differently so that I could do better on something I struggled with? And who do you turn to for help when things are hard for you? Is it hard or easy for you to reach out to people? Why? Do you think struggling with things makes you a stronger person? Yes or no? Why? This doesn't say why on all of these, but I'm adding that because why is important. How do learning and thinking differences make me stronger? That's important, because what seems like stumbling blocks are actually stepping stones. And when kids know that, their efforts will go through the roof. Their confidence will, their hope, their motivation. Are you open to talking with friends about what you're strong in and what you struggle in? Yes, no. Why? Are you open to asking teachers for help with things that are hard for you? This self-advocacy is such an important skill.
Yes.
And a lot of kids will not do it because of the fear of standing out, or they think that teacher's out to get me. How can I describe my unique way of learning to friends and teachers? Are there any adults who can help me think through this? And this is more than them just coming up with the words. Think about how well you have to get to know yourself to answer that question.
Love it. All right. I think we're rounding the end here. And we are. Well, what is this, folks? This is the actual contact information for Heather's centers, but there are centers all around the country. If you are in Katy, Mansfield, or Southlake, Texas, come check us out. Also, make sure to check out the Hidden Churn, just in case you can't see it. It's right there, facebook.com/Hidden Churn. That is Heather's private channel where she can share more resources, more information for you. And of course, you can reach out to any of these locations right here and get in touch with them to get in and see what's going on with your kid. If you just have a couple questions, just reach out. I remember my first conversation with the Brain Balance Center. They were just like, how can we help? What can we do? So that is what we wanted to talk about. That is what we wanted to share with you. I'll take this screen out. And what else, Heather? What else?
I have to say, coming soon to the Woodlands, Texas. Next few weeks.
That's a big deal. Yeah, the Woodlands, Texas. All right. Stay tuned, people. If you watch till the end, we love you. You're the best. All right, guys, have a great day.